It's a great, great day. It's a good day. Get up.
Woo! It's a good day. I don't know if we're seeing sunshine here, though. I got to say, it's pretty rainy in here in Vancouver today. What about in Sydney, Kat?
It's cloudy today.
Sydney, Australia is cloudy also. Gosh, we need some more sun. So hopefully the show helps to brighten up your day. Welcome back, risers and thrivers. We are here on the Rise Today Inspirational Podcast, and gosh, we are excited to be here. Our show is all about opening up that conversation about hard days and hardship so that you feel less alone, as you're navigating those hard days, because we have all been there, and together we really are stronger. Here we share tools of resilience and resolve and fortitude to help overcome and rise and survive and even thrive through adversity and through hard days. And our guest today is an inspirational example of our mission here at the show. And we really hoped you enjoyed the last show. Gosh, that was an incredible show with phenomenal Olivia Lewis. At 21, she had this massive brainstem stroke as a senior in college. That resulted in what's called locked-in syndrome, where she was literally locked into her body, fully cognitive. She had no cognitive impairment from the stroke whatsoever, and yet she couldn't talk, walk, feed herself. She was fully incapacitated. And she has defied every one of the odds of her success. And now at 25, she just glows. And that was just such a great show, and such a light. She's such a light. So tune into that one if you happen to miss it. And today we are so excited for Kat. She's so authentic. She's so genuine, and she openly shares her journey, the ups and downs that she has faced as an alopecia warrior facing autoimmune disease. She is a young mama. She also has 2 kids who face alopecia as well. She's an inspirational force, really serving to help, others navigating through similar circumstances to find their strength, find their beauty, and be empowered on their path. She's a phenomenal example of what we do here on the show. Welcome, Kat.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for asking me to come on your show. It really is an honor. I really do appreciate when people do ask me to do these kinds of things, because for me, awareness is everything and helping others is everything.
Well, I really find you truly inspirational. Kat and I were connected through Instagram, and she's got her Instagram page here at catslife_less_hair. If you're needing some inspiration today, go check that out, because her page is phenomenal. And it's an honor for us to have you with us today, Kat. So Kat, can you take us back, because this started for you in childhood?
Yes.
So can you take us back to that time?
Yeah. So when I was around the age of 8 or 9 years old, I was getting ready for school one morning, as we all do, and my mum was brushing my hair to tie it into a ponytail. And right near the top of my head, she found a 20-cent coin-sized patch that was just suddenly there. It wasn't there the day before. She hadn't seen it before.
And just a bald patch, you mean?
Just a bald patch,
Yeah.
just a circle, perfect circle bald patch.
Perfect.
So obviously, as a mother, she totally freaked out, as you do when you find something that shouldn't be the way it was. We went to the doctor, who confirmed that possibly it was alopecia. But at that stage, we had no idea what alopecia was, what alopecia means.
So no one in your family had it? No one in your family had heard of it by this point? Okay.
No, there was no history. There's no connection we can find of anyone looking back that's had alopecia. So we didn't at that stage think it was genetic or hereditary. So fast forwarding, within 6 to 8 weeks, I lost my entire head. I had absolutely not a single hair on my head. So as a young girl, as a 9-year-old, I had shoulder length, strawberry blonde, healthy hair, and then nothing.
How did you feel? How do you remember feeling at that time?
Well, as a child, I feel being a child is actually helpful because you don't necessarily understand what it means. To you, it's just what's happening. So I actually was quite a brave and courageous child. I got up in front of the entire school and said, I'm losing my hair. It may all fall out. It might not. I was really brave and confident even as a young child. And it made a difference because if people around you know what's happening,
100%.
they can't make things up, or because unfortunately most people think that you're sick, because the most common cause for hair loss like that is that you're on cancer treatment. And I didn't want people thinking that I was sick, because, you know, who wants that?
Yeah, I want to pause there for a second because you've highlighted already on some really good tips right now, because knowledge is power. Right? For ourselves and to educate the world. It opens up the platform for conversation, and it shares so much. But more importantly, too, when you have that courage to own your story, right? It no longer owns us.
Yes.
And when we keep things more secretive, right? And we don't want to talk about things, what often comes from that is shame. Right? And when we own our story, we can overcome that shame because it's just who we are. Well, it helps anyhow. Yes.
Yes, definitely.
That's remarkable, though, at that age that you were able to get up in front of your school and talk so openly about it.
Yeah, and it was perfect that I did, because I did lose my entire head. And it was amazing because I had children at the school that were in the older grades. So I was in year 4 or 5 at that stage. And I had children in the older grades that kind of took me under their wing, I think, because they saw me as a person that was owning what was happening and they wanted to protect me. So it was really good. I was a school prefect, which is like a school leader. And my speech for that in year 6 was, I am the shortest, boldest and cutest girl in this
Oh my gosh,
school.
I love that. I love that.
So like I was just, it was okay. And I was out there. But as you grow up and as you get older, certain things get harder and image starts to come into the fold, and you start seeing your magazines and your TV shows and what you realize people think that you're supposed to look like. And for my mum, I think for parents of kids with alopecia, when they're children, it's actually really hard on the parents because they feel guilty. They feel like it's their fault. They want to protect you and they want to fix you, and they can't. There's absolutely nothing they can do to fix you. They know how horrible the world can be, unfortunately, sometimes, and they automatically assume that that's going to happen to you. I did it with my own children when I found out they had alopecia, even though I've had alopecia.
Of course. We worry.
Yeah. And that's natural. We're allowed to. So we would go to the shops and you would be buying something and I would get things for free because people thought I was sick, which I never said no to, because
of course
you got to make the most of your situation.
That's where they come. Yes.
But where it would have started to hurt is when people would go, oh, what a cute little boy. And so for a young girl, that started to make me feel insecure, and it started to make me feel like I wasn't feminine. And so it at that young age, I think that started to trigger some of the issues that I suffered later in life.
People say things so callously and without thought. And I remember, when I was bald for a short time with cancer, right? Like you were talking about, being the most common cause, being ill. And I pulled up to the school pickup, and there was a staff who would help conduct the traffic through the pickup. And it was like a spring day and my window was down at this point. And, he walked right up to my vehicle and he's like, wow, I've never seen anyone with a haircut like yours before. And I mean, I was bald as bald could be too, right? And I was like, oh yeah, it's a cancer cut. And he was just like, Sorry, I didn't know. But people just throw things out so quickly. And
Yeah.
I think when we're struggling, we can take those things so to heart and so personally. And
Yeah.
it's helpful to have those inspirational role models like yourself to be able to see those comments through a different lens.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So it definitely, if you're in that state where you're not good mentally and you are struggling, 100%, they damage you. They really do damage you, and they have no idea. Sometimes they don't have any ill intentions at all. It's just they're just saying what they're thinking.
Yeah.
But there are other times where there is intention behind it. We would go on school excursions, and there would be other kids there that would point and laugh and at the top of their lungs go, she's bald, she's got no hair. And you feel like the whole world is looking at you at that point. Like you just want to disappear, and you just want to fade away, and you just want to never come out again. But if we let that happen, like, I don't want to hide away forever, and I don't want to let people not win, but I don't want to let what other people think and feel determine how I think and feel. So it did hurt as a child. It actually, so my alopecia is
Not
a little
so much
bit
from,
different.
I'm going to interrupt there for me. From my perspective, I don't so much see it, and I like how you kind of phrase that a bit, but I don't so much see it as letting other people win. But for me, it's always like, I'm not going to let cancer win that, or like alopecia win that moment, I'm going to take my power back over that moment.
Yeah. Which as a child, you don't have the skills to do that yet. Takes a long time to grow those skills.
And I'm just going to let our audience know too, like alopecia, for a lot of people who don't know about it, is an autoimmune disease, right? And it can happen from various triggers, just like all autoimmune diseases can arise. And the exact obvious cause is really unknown at the end of the day. But just like any autoimmune disease, they can come on suddenly, just like Kat experienced. I'm a mom of a young type 1 diabetic. And there was no type 1 diabetes on either side of mom or dad's family. This too came as a complete shock, and just like in Kat's world, basically Kat's body woke up and decided it didn't recognize the cells that make her hair, and attacked those cells as if it was a foreign invader, right? Yes. And just like with my son, it was his immune system woke up and looked at the beta islet cells of the pancreas that produce insulin, and his immune system decided it did not recognize those cells and literally obliterated those cells. And so this poor child doesn't produce any insulin. So for any meals he eats, he needs to inject his own insulin. It's very different than type 2 diabetes, right? But all stems from this autoimmune nature. It's same process for Kat, same process for a lot of these autoimmune disorders. Anyhow, I just wanted to highlight that to our audience for clarity.
You have no idea what triggers it, and some people really almost destroy themselves trying to find that trigger, trying to find what was it that caused this, because if I can find what was it that caused this, can I fix it?
And that's not just with autoimmune disease. That's with really every health issue, I would say, because even with cancer, it was the first thing I was like, did I eat too many fruits and vegetables? Like I'd always lived this healthy life, right? And you're always trying to pinpoint it because you want to know what not to do again.
Yes, exactly. And what not to do with your kids and the future generations.
But it's not that simple,
No, it's not.
If there was the one thing I did, we wouldn't have cancer. Or if it was one thing Kat had done in her, childhood, right, we wouldn't have alopecia or autoimmune disease at large. I also want to raise, because Kat also mentioned a really important point about, somebody commenting that, how's the cute boy, and losing our sense of femininity in the face of health challenges is a big unspoken territory that we don't often talk about, and I know it was like that definitely with cancer, leukemia specifically, for different reasons too. I didn't have breast cancer, right? But it's a different world. And I talk about my story very openly too. I lost my cycle at the age of 35. I was given stem cells, bone marrow from a new donor from halfway across the world in Germany. He's this young mountaineering adventurer. My blood type changed from O negative to A positive. But if you look at me on a lab, like I look like I'm a boy, right? And so I really lost like a lot of my sense of femininity on that. And you really have to be very open about that journey. And through confidence, through acceptance, and through these other paths, that can really come back for us. But it takes an open forum for that conversation. And it takes that awareness to say, hey, like this is hurtful to me, you know, and that's okay. Right. We have to own that side of it, being real about the hardships that we're facing and about our femininity, because that's so important, you know, and it's not often discussed in the face of health issues because people are like, well, you're surviving, you know, you're doing well, like, but it's also quality of life, right? And it's a big forum for discussion that needs more awareness behind it. So, yeah.
Well, as a young adult, those years were the hardest for me.
Yes, I bet.
Well, as a child, I was okay, but as a older teenager and, you know, early 20s, I really struggled.
Yeah. Well, just like you said, you're the cutest bald girl. I would make jokes saying that I was the cutest boy that the world has ever seen, you know, like, I'm just like, you know, you've got to own it at some point, but I bet that was a struggle.
Yeah. So, you know, when you start having interest in, you know, I started getting interested in boys. All my friends would have sleepover parties and they wouldn't invite me because one of the things that girls liked to do at that age at sleepover parties was they like to braid their hair or they do their makeup and make themselves look pretty. And they thought they were helping me and they thought they were protecting me because they thought I wouldn't cope. But at the end of the day, all I wanted to do was be there. I really just wanted to be included. I didn't want to be excluded because I might have looked different, but it was still me. It didn't make me a different person.
Sense of belonging.
Yeah.
That sense of belonging is so key.
Yeah. And that was really hard. And then that led into my teens where image really, I guess, starts to play such a big role. And that I didn't feel feminine. I wouldn't look at mirrors. I would hide from mirrors. My alopecia comes and goes. So a little bit more on the alopecia, there's different forms. So areata is patches, where you lose patches of hair. Totalis is where you lose your entire head. And then universalis is your entire body. So I have a little bit of a hybrid model of alopecia. So my hair comes and goes. So I had hair for 8 years, I think it was 8 or 9 years. Then I lost my hair for 6 to 7 years and I had nothing. But then it grew back again. And then I had it for another 7 or 8 years. And then it fell out again. And then
let's talk about this. Are there life circumstances that are also happening that correlate? Like, are you going through periods of stress? No, you can't correlate.
No, like there's nothing I can pinpoint through my life as to why at that point in time my hair decides to fall out. So I had absolutely no control. I had absolutely no control over what it was doing. So besides the femininity, the loss of power and the loss of control is huge. I've often compared it to the fact it's like you're strapped into the passenger seat of a car and you're tied into that seat and someone puts a brake on the accelerator and you can't stop the car. You can't steer it. You can't brake. You cannot stop. You know that you're going to crash and there's nothing you can do about it. And that for me is what my alopecia has been like. I know at some stage that hair's going to fall out again. And there's nothing I can do about it. So it consumes you because I'm waiting for it to happen. So I'm pulling on my hair to see if it's falling out. I brush it and I check the brush and count how many strands are in the brush. I wash it and I look at the drain and see how much hair is there. Every morning I pick up my pillow and I count the strands of hair on my pillow. Now I was doing this every day. Wow. Day after day after day. All that consumed me was whether my hair was growing or falling out.
Wow.
And it really takes a lot of power to continue through that and to travel through life, while behind closed doors I was a mess, because I was just like, what is it doing? What is it doing? What is it going to do tomorrow?
So what did you do to overcome that sense of, because you were so focused, right?
I
Those hairs
was.
coming out and on the
I
feeling
yep.
of not being, not having any control.
Yeah, I shaved it.
You shaved it.
Got rid of it.
Okay. 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 I love that.
Yep. If there's no longer hair there for me to look at, it doesn't have any power over me anymore.
Perfect. Change your focus, right?
Yep.
What we choose to focus on is a choice. And
Yeah.
what we choose to focus on, we give meaning to and we give life to.
Yes.
And
Yeah. So I
Kat took
instantly
away that. Yep. She
Yeah,
took back her power.
Yep.
And she shaved that off, and she was not going to focus on those hairs falling out. That is a remarkable tool. Love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And I only did that 3 or 4 years ago now. So it took me a long time to come to that decision. I wish I had come to it earlier.
Tell me how it felt on the other side of that. Once you shaved your head, how did you feel compared to before?
I loved my reflection again. I felt like I could focus on everything else in my life and not my hair anymore.
Perfect.
Yeah, felt empowered. I felt strong. I started to feel beautiful. I started to feel feminine again. And it's just grown. And that has just grown to this almost beast now, where I love my reflection now.
Gorgeous. You're just this gorgeous, strong, radiant woman. It's just it's incredible. And
Yeah.
I want to share like this connection for my audience to really take this in, because really this is why we're here doing the show. No matter what we are struggling with, no matter how high the mountain we have to climb today, these tools can translate to whatever you're struggling through, right? Because, excuse me, struggle comes when we feel we have that loss of power, that loss of control over our circumstance. Like we're just sitting there waiting for disaster to happen. Just like Kat was sitting there waiting for these hairs to fall out next, right? Just like with terminal cancer, I'm waiting for this big fire-breathing dragon of cancer to do its thing, right? My focus was on cancer. Kat's focus was on alopecia. Kat changed her focus, right? And took back her power, right? So that she wasn't struggling anymore. She took back that power and took back her control over her life, right? By shaving all of her hair off and not waiting for these hairs to come back anymore. And then what happened? She loved her reflection. She was loving life again. Same for me. I had terminal cancer, right? Terminal, 2 months to live, Erica, by 2 international institutions. If I just chose to focus on cancer, right, I don't think I would be here today.
Yeah.
I switched my focus, put it on to living the today, to maximize today, right? And I fueled my mind, my body, and my soul in whatever way I thought would help me maximize today.
Yep.
And by doing so, somehow I've translated that from 60 days to live to now nearly 4,000, right?
Incredible.
Taking your mind off cancer, putting it on to whatever else you want to focus on. Living life to the fullest for me is what I do, right? Kat said she didn't want to hide away. I also didn't want to hide away. Switch your focus, because what we focus on, we give meaning to.
Yep.
I cannot emphasize this enough. No matter what you are navigating, when we feel we don't have power over our circumstance, we struggle.
Yep.
And as soon as we can figure out how to shift that, take back the power in the ways that we can.
Yeah.
In the ways that we can control. I couldn't control what cancer did, but I could control what I put in my body.
Yep.
What I chose, I became a human filter for what went through my mind, for news, for radio, for anything. What went through my mouth, anything. Who was in my circle, right?
Yes.
I became acutely aware of my environment.
Yes.
Internal and external. I didn't choose to focus on cancer. I chose to focus on maximizing today.
Yep.
And whatever would do that to help me do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's Kat really highlighted this by shaving her head, taking back the power in the ways she could. I think that's really remarkable.
Yeah.
How old were you at that point? Sorry, Kat.
So that was 4 years ago. So I was 36, 37.
36. And did you already have kids by this point?
I did. I did.
see. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting that I decided to shave my head around the same time that I found patches on my children's heads and found that they had alopecia. So the other reinforcement of doing that is I'm showing my kids that alopecia has no power over me. It has no control over me. And now they're in that journey and they're already so far ahead of where I was at their age. So my daughter is 13. She lost her entire head of hair. So she had like the top. So she had this hair along the bottom and nothing on the top. Now you can't hide that. There is no hiding that.
Yeah.
She started high school. So it's kind of like going into secondary school and lost her top of her head. Like, hi, welcome to all this 150 new people that you don't even know. Oh, and now you're going to lose your hair.
Right.
That's like massive. But she got up in front like I did. She got up in front of her grade to start off with and explained to them what was happening to her. It went so well that she then got up in front of the entire secondary college. So that's 1,000 students, 1,000 people looking at her. And she got up and she told them how she had alopecia, how she looks different, but she's okay. And it's okay. And it wasn't only empowering for her, but it was empowering for the students. It was empowering for the teachers. I've had so many of the teachers come up to me and say, she made me realize that, I have a cold sore. What am I worrying about?
Yes.
Or, I have a bad haircut or a bad headache. Why am I worrying about it? It doesn't matter. And the same with the students. She had, 17 and 18-year-old kids coming up to her, hugging her and saying, you are amazing. You empowered me. You made me think differently about how I take my appearance. That's huge. Huge, massive. And then she went on to speak to the junior school. So she spoke to the younger kids as well. So it just became this big thing. And for her to do that, I feel like I've had a fair part to play in that. If I was hiding my alopecia, if I was behind closed doors, she wouldn't be out there doing that. She wouldn't be walking bravely through those corridors regardless of what her hair is doing. And that's incredible. And that's her taking her power, taking her control and controlling what she can around what is happening to her. That's like huge. She wants to be a TED talker one day. Like
I should have had her on the show.
Her goal is to do a TED talk and is to inspire people to not be so focused on what they look like and more focused on who they are. And that's huge. And for me to think that I've had a part to play in that, and if I hadn't have taken my control, what different path we might have been on. It's scary because for a 13-year-old girl to suddenly lose her hair when she's in that, it can be absolutely horrific. And, there was a young girl over in America, Rio, who unfortunately did take her life due to alopecia. And the thought of that happening to my children just terrifies me. But I know that I'm doing my best by owning my alopecia, by controlling my alopecia, to set them up and to show them that you don't need to walk out of that house hiding who you are. You don't need to cover up. You can be just an amazing, inspirational, beautiful person, regardless of what you look like. Whether it's alopecia or anything, it does not matter what you look like. It's about who you are. And that's powerful. That is powerful.
How was your son navigated with it?
He is a little bit different. Boys are a little bit different. He chose very early to shave his head.
Okay.
And again, for me, that was empowering because
Yeah.
it is a very hard decision, whether you're a child or an adult, to choose to shave your hair off. For most people, their hair just grows back.
Yeah.
So you can shave your head and it's going to be fine. But for people with alopecia, you don't know if your hair is going to grow back. So if I shave this off, that's it. Like, so he chose to shave his head at a very early stage. He spoke to his classmates. He's not as confident as my daughter, but that's okay. He is still comfortable and happy and doing everything that an 11-year-old boy should do.
Yes, he's not missing out.
No, he's not letting it
I
stop.
think Kat's very powerful in the way she speaks, and her daughter has been so courageous. And, you know, in reality, we all do face fear.
Yeah.
Right. And as bold and as courageous as so many of us are out there, it's not that we're not having the same fears. You know, we just choose to walk through them. And over time, that confidence to walk through those fears comes with baby steps. Right. And it's just building that confidence over time.
Yeah.
There's no goalpost as to how fast that happens. It's just that progression, right? Of continuing to walk through those fears in the ways that we're able, and not letting alopecia or cancer or anything else, you know, determine how we live. Right. And hiding away, like Kat said a few times.
Yeah. Like, nothing should stop you. Nothing should stop anyone. And that's where education is so important. So just recently, I was walking into a shop and there was a child outside the shop and he pointed and laughed at me. And his mum grabbed him and went, shh. And I stopped and I went, no, you don't need to shush him. Clearly, he's never been talked about when someone looks different, how you act.
Yeah.
So, you know, I have a shaved head. I don't have hair. I have alopecia and I lose my hair. So pointing at me and laughing isn't really a nice thing to do. And if you felt different or looked different, would you want someone to point and laugh at you? And he was like, no. And the mum was just standing there.
And what to say?
He was like, no. And I went, okay. And so I looked at her and I'm like, you know, you should talk to your child about these things rather than hiding them. I'm not embarrassed and I'm not upset by the fact that he pointed and laughed at me. What upsets me is when parents or any person doesn't see it as an opportunity for education.
Yeah, opportunity to grow and learn. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a moment where they're having a reaction that they think is normal until they're told otherwise.
Yeah.
And as kids, you can instill that in them. No, women don't have to have hair. That's fine. Because I've often heard that from little kids to their mums. Mum, can ladies have no hair? Well, after I walk past them. And like most of the time, the mum will go, yeah, that's okay. And you think that child has now been educated. So I've made it easier for someone else. But it's all about that, starting from when they're young of, you know, I even will admit I've had days where my kids were young where I do get cold sores myself and I've been paranoid about them. And now that I think about it, I'm showing my child that something that I can't control and something's on my face is affecting me wanting to go out and do something. When a lot of us get cold sores, it's just something that happens. You know, I should be going, yeah, that's okay, that doesn't matter, I'll still go do everything. And then my children will grow up going, yeah, that doesn't matter, rather than them going, oh, when mum got that, she hid and she didn't want to come out.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think you're such a remarkable force, Kat. You're really incredible. I have a question. How has this impacted your romantic relationships along the way?
Well, that's a whole different story. So I met my unfortunately now ex-husband when I was 19, 20. So we have been together for 20 years. And when I met him, I had hair. I was going through a hair growth stage. And about 2 years after being with him, my hair fell out again. So he had to experience that whole process with me. And that's a really hard thing. When do I tell that person that I don't have hair? How do I tell them that I don't have hair? Or
Had you been comfortable to openly discuss that before it started to fall out again?
well, no, I
Yeah.
hadn't actually. So I didn't talk about it until it started falling out. He knew it was part of my past and that as a child I had no hair,
Yeah.
but I guess we hadn't really dived into it deeply because it wasn't happening to me at that point in time. So like one of the things that happened for him is he got protective. So if we did go out somewhere and someone said something, he would, want to defend me and he would yell at them. And for me, the more attention I got, the more I hated it. So I actually I love that you want to protect me, but I don't need protecting and I don't need it to be made into this big deal. So that was really hard. But yeah, so finding yourself attractive and finding yourself sexually attractive when you have no hair can be really hard. Because I already didn't feel feminine. I already didn't feel attractive because at that stage of my life was when I really struggled with finding those feelings for myself when I was hiding from mirrors. So to think that someone else would find me attractive and someone else would want me, I never found myself worthy.
Right.
I really thought I was not worthy of his love, his affection, that I didn't deserve it. And I never looked at it and went, no, I deserve that. I'm worthy of that. It's only now recently that I realized that after shaving, taking back my control. Now I'm like, no, I am worthy of someone loving me. I am worthy of
Atta
what
girl.
Yeah, I do feel feminine. I do feel attractive. And I do feel like I have this power now when I'm walking around. I'll look at people and smile instead of looking at people and turning away. And that's amazing. But after separating from my husband, I now have a little bit of that fear creeping in of, do I wear a wig when I go out? Do I not wear a wig?
Yeah.
If I was to meet someone and I have a wig on, how do I explain to them that I don't have hair? So it starts creeping in. And I keep telling myself, I'll do whatever is right. If I feel the need to tell the person, I'm going to tell them straight up. I'm not going to hide it. I'm not going to let it have this power of being this big secret. I'm not going to let it control where I'm heading and what I'm doing. I'm going to pull it back and go, as soon as that thought pops into my head, do I need to tell this person? I'm going to tell them straight away.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And we've both been divorced for various reasons, you and I. And it's been an interesting journey back in the dating scene, and at first I too was very conscious about my health story, right? And I was very aware. It was a bit of an insecurity for me in the dating scene, thinking, gosh, nobody would want to walk beside me along that journey in fear that, something would happen again or whatever. I was very acutely aware and I was almost ashamed, even though all that I've achieved and all that I've overcome in that setting of dating, I was almost ashamed. And it was because I had been told that nobody would love me because of my scars. Nobody would love me because of all that I've been through. And that, no matter all the positive things people tell us, those things can ring in our ears, right? And as much as we can be these strong, empowered women, in the back of our minds, sometimes these things are still ringing. And so in these personal settings of dating or meeting new people, I too would, kind of be like, how do I bring in this big story? Because if you see me today, you would never have a clue, right? And so how do I bring that in? And then I I completely shifted from that. And I too just started owning it right from the get-go. Obviously, with people that I'm not interested in, I'm not going to go in the whole detail of it. But, for those that I was interested in, I would just say it right from the get-go. And then I got extra bold. I would put, there was this one thing I've done the Bumble dating app. Yeah. And it says, I think it's tell me 2 truths and a lie. Yeah. And so I would always put, what were my truths? I can't remember. I've jumped out of a plane, which is a truth. I've met Oprah, which is a truth. And then I breathe through new lungs. Oh, no. I love coffee, which was one. And then I breathe through new lungs. And so everybody thinks like I breathe through new lungs is not right, but it's a total conversation starter, right?
Yeah.
So I just put it out there from the get-go, because then it takes us back to the whole story and it kind of kicks it off. And to be honest, again, it's that whole thing of how you stood up in front of your school. Once you own that story in whatever capacity you feel insecure about, right? Because because you feel confident speaking up in front of a school, you might not feel confident sharing it in that dating scene.
Yes.
And so when you start owning it in whatever area you feel most insecure in, that changes your dynamic. That changes your energy that you bring, right? And then I think people are drawn to it. It's not, we're always so self-conscious and so aware of, self-judgment, I think would be the word I was looking for. So hard on ourselves, right? And if we just let that go, life is such a beautiful gift out there. We just need to let down that guard a bit,
Yes. And you will find the right person.
Yes.
Probably faster than you would if you hide away and don't talk about these things.
Yeah.
But if you don't love yourself and if you don't know who you are, you can't let anyone else love you. Because if you don't know how to love yourself and if you don't know who you are, how can you explain that to someone else? How can you demonstrate that?
You're right. What's the biggest tool that you can share with my audience as to how to adopt more self-love?
So for me, it was that taking control, and you need to spend time with yourself. You need to sit down. So for me, I sometimes journal and I'll sit down and write out my thoughts. And I focused on the things that I'm good at, the things that are positive, the things that I know are true, and who I was as a person, rather than thinking about the negatives or the sad parts. I allow the sad parts to happen when they need to happen because getting your emotions out is good, but I don't dwell on them and I don't focus on them. So doing that sort of real self-evaluation, like, what do I want?
Totally.
What do I really want? And knowing what I want, not what I need, what I want, helps me focus on heading in that direction, rather than what I've done in the past and who I was in the past. What I want is really powerful, and aiming for that, trying to manifest that and having that law of attraction is really helping me a lot. And it's my kids. So, they're going after what they want. They're being who they want to be. And they're not focusing on their hair and whether it's growing or whether it's falling out. They're not showing those signs that I showed. And so nothing's going to stop them. Nothing's going to stop me. And that's just amazing. But one of the other main support aspects, I would say, is going to like-minded people that are going through the same situations. Having support from people who are going through what you were going through is huge.
Seek out your inspirational role models. So important, right? I think that's really great. The other thing I love to talk about too with my coaching clients, and I find this tool works really effectively. And I learned this from one of the courses that I had done back in the day. It was just suggested as a tool, and I really resonated with it myself. We have to all create our own little badass list. Highlight all of your achievements and your accomplishments. Do it in a little short bullet form, right? And remind yourself of all of your incredible strengths, right? And what you bring to the world. And that little badass list, I have my coaching clients put it on their fridge. you know, so
Yep.
it's or on their bathroom mirror, you know, wherever that best little spot is, it's just going to remind them, give them a little edge, you know, when they walk out to the world a little bit more confidently with that little edge or that little spark, you know, and
Yeah.
you know, when that, it was funny because back in the day when I was bald, like I was saying, and that gentleman at the school had approached me and, you know, commented on my quote unquote haircut, saying he had never seen anything like it. I used to drive an Escalade back in the day, this big monster vehicle, right? We had our, you know, my huge Swiss Mountain Dog was in the back. We'd have the stroller, the kids, the two grandmas, like everything in there, right? And anyhow, I'd be driving, and I think people would look through their rear view mirror and they would see me. I assumed in my head they thought I was a gangster girl, right?
Yeah.
Bald as bald could be, you know? And I was like, you know, this could like make me self-conscious, right? As to what people are interpreting right now with what they're perceiving, or I'm going to use this to my advantage, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I needed to go somewhere, I'd be like, toot, toot, like get out of the way, gangster girls here, you know, like, and it was like the rest of the part, you know, like use your edge, find your badass list, create that badass list, put it on a fridge, adopt more self-love, take back your power in the ways that you're able, shift your focus, shift what you're giving energy to, shift what you're giving life to, take back your power. Kat is here to help you do that. I am here to help you do that. We are so happy you are with us today, Risers and Thrivers. We can't wait to be with you next time again. Have a wonderful Tuesday. Thank you, Kat, for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's amazing.
We'll keep talking after the show. All the best, Risers and Thrivers. Have a great day.